Kris.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good, Kris.
Okay.
This season, going to be all about the trans community and really conservative Christianity, but I would also throw just Christianity in general in there. Because, real quick, to qualify, it's not that all Christians are bad on this topic, right?
Right.
Or,
I mean,
not even a topic, like these individuals, right?
Not everyone is bigoted and misinformed.
Right, exactly. But certainly there are a lot of, and again, they lean more conservative Christians that are very poor in how they address the trans community, and
there's like a lack of effort in a lot of the conservative specifically side to learn this info.
Let's get to the facts, shall we, Kris?
Let's do it.
And I think that one of the best ways of addressing anything once we're trying to get educated on it is to start with some vocab words.
Vocabulary, because word choice is important.
Yes. I mean, that's one of the first things that needs to be taken care of. If we're going to be talking about something, we need to know what it is that we're talking about.
Exactly.
So, Kris, as our resident English major, I'm
not an English major.
You know what? You are now. No, you're not, but
I'm really not.
On this podcast, you are.
I can Google things and look up dictionaries.
Oh, yes. Folks, really, that's all we're doing here. Are we experts in this field? No, but we are appealing to the experts. We are reading the experts. I think that needs to be understood. So let's talk vocab here, Kris.
Vocab.
Do you have some trans vocab for us?
I guess so. I have some vocab.
I don't know how to say that. Do you have some vocab for us?
I do. Okay, so we're going to start with a lot of the terms that we're going to be using on this season.
Yeah.
Very beginning.
Yeah.
Wild. Anyways. All right, so some of these definitions are going to come from the APA website, which is the American Psychological Association. And that is a great website that obviously has done a lot of research on these terms and knows them. But you can also look up these terms on dictionaries if you would like.
It's everywhere, folks.
Anyways,
it just is.
First definition, our foundation definitions for this episode and for this season.
Lay that foundation.
What does it mean?
Build it on the solid rock, Kris.
Not the solid rock.
Not on the sand, Kris, like in Florida.
Alrighty. What does it mean to be transgender?
Sorry, Florida.
Transgender is an umbrella term that is used for people whose gender identity, gender expression, or behavior does not conform to that typically associated with the sex to which they were assigned at birth. Follow up to that, in case anyone is confused, sex assigned at birth, what that means is that is the sex that will be on your very first birth certificate. So you are born and the doctor says, it's a boy, it's a girl. That's what that means. Next one, gender identity.
Okay.
Gender identity refers to a person's internal sense of being male, female, or something else. So your gender identity is how you perceive yourself.
Can you give us an example of what that might look like?
Sure. Okay.
Yay!
So for myself, I was born and assigned female at birth. And I grew up knowing that there was dissonance between me and how I felt my gender identity as an individual. And when I finally was able to do the research and the personal investigation and the effort to understand myself, I realized that I'm non-binary. And for me, that means that I don't really identify with being male or female. May change for different individuals, but that's just my own personal experience.
Yeah. So that's not something that you learned from like a book or a TikTok.
No, that's a very common misconception. I think for me, while I did not know what the term non-binary meant as a child, I did learn that term. But I didn't learn the identity. I've had that since I was born. Like, I've known it. I just didn't understand what it meant. The
conservative movement tends to muddy the waters when it comes to this term, which is why I'm asking for the example and a little bit more explanation on that, because they're going to say the identity ain't the thing. Like, it's the ideology that determines the identity, not the nature.
No.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, you know, we're blessed from on high to have you here who has, well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's really helpful to someone like me to hear your personal experience. And I trust you, right?
Right.
And you should be trusted.
Well, we talked about gender identity and then really close follow-up, gender expression. So these two terms are often used together, but they do describe two different things or parts of identity.
Okay.
Gender expression refers to the way a person communicates gender identity to others through behavior, clothing, hairstyles, voice, or body characteristics. So the gender expression is going to be how people see you, is going to be the external factors that you're using to present yourself as an individual, while gender identity is the internal sense of self.
Okay.
Very different, but
yeah, that
very
makes
important.
sense. Okay, I love that. Everybody listening? Yes,
I hope
okay.
so.
I can't hear you.
Next definition.
Next.
Sexual orientation. So I did look this up in the dictionary as well, but I'm going to continue to read from the APA website. And they say sexual orientation refers to an individual's enduring physical, romantic, and or emotional attraction to another person, whereas gender identity refers to one's internal sense of being male, female, or something else, which I like how they describe it with the other terms that they're using. And it does say that also that transgender people may be straight, lesbian, gay, bisexual, or asexual, etc., just as any non-transgender person is or can be.
Yeah. So I can see why that might be confusing for some people.
Yeah, I have definitely seen people think that trans individuals just want to be straight in their relationships and that's why they're trans, but that's not the case. They're two different things.
Oh, what a wild world we live in. People think all sorts of things that are not true.
For me personally, in my own journey, I realized that my sexual orientation was not the typical straight that's expected. First, because that was something that I dealt with more on a regular basis. Like I had more people ask me about who I was attracted to. I had to understand why I was not attracted to the men that I was supposed to be and all of that. But that isn't why I'm non-binary. That doesn't have to do with why I'm non-binary. I actually started discovering that after I came out to myself as queer, because it took me accepting that part of myself in order to challenge some other part of myself that was different.
Okay, so that makes a lot of sense to me, but it's not my experience at all.
Yeah.
You know, my route or path in regards to my identity, my expression, my orientation is all kind of basic guy stuff, you know? Which,
okay.
No, I mean, that's good.
It's good. Like
it's all good,
it's
right?
fine.
It's all good. It affords me more privilege in society, to be honest, fair. And you understand that. But yeah, like I'm considered to be cisgender,
right?
Which we should probably talk about that real quick as well. So for your understanding, what would be the difference then between a cisgender and a transgender individual?
This is a definition that I'm not reading directly from, to note, but cisgender just means that you are still identifying with the way that you were biologically defined as a child.
Right, yeah. So I was on my birth certificate, in my experience, I look like a man.
The way you're saying these things is just
that's from Mad TV. That's from Mad TV. Shout out to Mad TV. Miss Swan, you looking like a man. But I did, and I felt that way, and all that made sense to me, and, like, I was attracted to women. Was I attracted to other men? No, far from it. Like, it wasn't even a question, right? Like, I never had to think about that or anything. It was what was natural to me. I identify as a man. I express myself largely as a man. I think there are certain things that I might do or express myself that may lean more, quote unquote, traditionally feminine, or
I guess, but that's society,
or even queer or whatever. But like that's, you know, like I remember I was wearing I love my skinny jeans, Chris. No apologies. I love my skinny jeans. I like my short shorts.
I love that for you.
I was thrift store shopping one time, and I'm wearing my skinny jeans, and this kid comes up to me and he says, "You're wearing girl pants." But this kid says that, and I'm just like, No, he doesn't know what he's talking
right?
about.
I feel like that speaks more to society. Like the fact that even clothing is gendered is weird.
Right. No,
weird.
I completely agree with that. But that's in my culture at the thrift store.
Right.
With this little kid, that's how he sees the world. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he's not the only one in that thrift store that thought that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't care. I wear what I want to wear.
Right.
When
Whatever
I want to wear it.
With.
Exactly. And so that's, the expression thing, good grief. And this is what irritates me so much about conservatives in general is, as much as they talk about liberty and freedom, and even within Christianity, Jesus sets you free and all this kind of stuff, it's just like, it's so restrictive in a lot of cases.
It is. Being trans, being non-binary, identifying differently than the sex you were born with does not mean your sexual orientation is going to be linked to that. It can be, but it is not inherently linked to that.
Yeah, and it shouldn't matter.
Right. It shouldn't matter.
It shouldn't matter. That's what we want to say about it.
Right. I really get irritated when people try to kind of gatekeep
yes.
who can date who. I'm like, no, stop it.
But that's like the specialty of the conservative Christian group, right? They very much want things to look and to be a certain way.
Right.
Because apparently that's what God says in the Bible. And I just find that incredibly irritating.
Yeah.
That, like, I just want to be who I am, period. And in a lot of cases, like, I particularly don't feel a need to pin any sort of vocabulary on that necessarily. But it is helpful, obviously, when we're having these conversations.
Like, the terms are great, but it is important to note that just because a term is defined as this specific thing doesn't mean that it's only one way, it's only this way. Like, you don't have to be in a box. You don't have to find a label. It just sometimes helps with conversations.
Okie doke. What's next?
Justin and I both come from the SDA background, and there are different kinds of ways people think about affirming theology or just being affirming in general based on your type of Christianity or denomination, all of that. But in general, affirmation or affirmation theology is the act of supporting and affirming individuals who are part of the LGBTQ plus community.
Right. Basically saying, I support you in your identity, your expression, your orientation, all of the above. You're cool. You should have equal.
You're cool.
Yeah. Well, you should have equal rights.
Right.
And those that should all be expressed and conveyed by my religious organization or my expression of, or the religious organization's interactions, I should say, with the individual.
In a lot of ways, I think that affirming theology is very much just, I trust this individual to know who they are and to let them live the life that they know they need to live or want to live, etc. And I'm not going to try to change who they are.
And I think you also have to tack on to that as well. It's not sinful.
Exactly. Yes.
Because that's really ultimately why I think so many conservative Christians are opposed to, well, again, since we're talking about the trans community, someone who is trans.
Yeah.
And next episode, we'll talk about like where they get those ideas from in the Bible. But, the bottom line is that they do somehow, some way. For someone like me, I have thrown all that out because it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But that's for the next episode. Okay. Very good. What else?
So let's talk about transitioning.
Let us
do this.
Let us.
Transitioning does look different for different individuals, but in general, a basic understanding of it is someone is taking time, effort, means to be able to express themselves and have other people refer to them in ways that match their internal gender identity. Their gender expression may change. It's anything that goes from a presentation that is not comfortable or not fitting for an individual to a presentation that is fitting or comfortable for an individual.
Which would be the transition.
Right.
Yeah.
The transition is getting to a place where you fit, where you feel at home in your body and yourself.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, there are different ways and different aspects of transition. Most people think of medical transition when we're talking about transitioning. So medical transition typically involves any kind of medical surgery, medical hormone use that will allow you to present in the way that fits with your gender identity.
So how is that like gender affirming care at all?
Yes, thank you. That was what I was looking for. Just so gender affirming care, medical transitioning, hand in hand. They're shaking hands.
Oh,
ooh, oopsies.
Good to meet you.
Medically transitioning doesn't have to be anything someone from the outside would consider really serious, like any kind of body alteration, but it could be something like taking hormones like testosterone or estrogen, or it could be getting facial feminization surgery, or just any kind of small little tweaks. Like, it doesn't have to always be involving genitals, which is what people typically think of. Also, it's very, very rude of you as any individual, any person in the world, to ask someone what their genitals are like. That's weird. Let's not do that.
Oh, yeah. PSA here, folks. Don't be that person.
It's none your business.
And none your business.
It's weird.
Real quick, let me jump in. Isn't it also true that a cisgender straight white guy could receive gender affirming care?
Yes, that's very true. It's kind of funny to me because people seem to think that gender affirming care is only for trans people, but it's not.
Yes.
Like, if you got, for example, a very common thing that I've seen in society, and probably everyone's heard about at least, is when women have to get a double mastectomy for breast cancer, and they get reconstructive surgery. That's gender affirming care.
Yeah, these men don't seem to have a problem with that.
No. Or even it could even be something like getting your nose job done, or getting. Some people have chemically lower levels of testosterone or estrogen, and they need the hormone levels to be higher for their health, so they have to take hormones.
And why do people do this though? To feel comfortable.
To feel comfortable and healthy.
Yeah, and it's just wild to me that you have so many conservatives that are opposed to that whilst they participate in it themselves.
Right. It's funny because the medical transitioning, any kind of gender affirming care, has nothing to do with other people.
Yeah.
It's all about the individual.
Rights for me, not for thee.
Right. So it's like, why are you mad? This has nothing to do with you. But it's fine.
Yeah, I'd say people just need to kind of mind their own business as a rule. But
exactly.
All right.
Mind your business.
What are some other ways that somebody may transition, Kris, aside from medical?
So there's also social transition. This is a lot easier and is typically one of the first steps that trans individuals do.
Okay.
Socially transitioning could look like telling someone your pronouns are different than what has typically been used before. For example, when I started using they, them pronouns, I had to start telling people, hey, I use they, them pronouns, so that they would know and could use them for me.
Yeah.
Instead of using whatever pronouns they think fit me.
Yeah, that's not a medical thing. That's a social thing.
Right. It could also look like trying to find ways to present yourself that fit more with your gender identity, whether that means wearing more traditionally masculine clothing, traditionally feminine clothing, being more midline, kind of looking androgynous, anything that would change your perception in society's eyes.
Yeah, cool.
And then there's also legal transitioning. Which would have to do with legal name changes or documentation. Those are two that come to my head right off the bat. I'm sure there's other examples.
Okay, that was great, Kris. Thank you for educating us on that. But I got a question for you.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
What is it?
Kris, why are people trans?
I mean, as much as a lot of people would love there to be a quick, easy answer, the easy answer is there is no answer.
Oh, Christians don't like that.
Right? Like, I understand.
There are no answers, then what's the truth?
I get that people want there to be a solution and an answer so that they can understand, but that's not what it's like. You can't simply say to every trans individual out there, this is why you're trans. That's not how it works.
I understand, because I was a conservative Christian at one point in my life, right? So I understand that desire to have a nice answer wrapped up
in a little box.
in a little box with a little bow on it, perhaps. Even if it's wrong, though, at times, it's like I don't even care about the accuracy of it. I just need something that will satisfy.
It's like, heaven forbid we start thinking with our brains.
Yes, but but this is the issue. Because we do think with our brains need some sort of resolution.
I guess.
Why not just say something? Doesn't need to be accurate. Well, if we got the Bible that's already telling us certain things that we believe, we could kind of tie an answer to that.
The problem is when individuals who are trying to understand or talk to trans, non-binary people and get their understanding of their story and experiences, if there has to be an answer, oftentimes, if not all the time, it causes more distress for the trans or non-binary individual than just this person accepting that this person knows what they're talking about.
Because how are you going to communicate that anyways?
Well, I'll tell you, when I came out, a lot of people asked me, like, who did this to you? And I was like, excuse me?
Yeah.
Like, the questions I got completely blew my mind. I was not expecting it at all. Like, it was wild. I'm like, no, it's just who I am. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, Kris, I've spent many hours listening to you describe your experience to me, and I won't understand it.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't. Like, I can, I can see where you're coming from to some degree, but like your exact experience, I just have to trust you on that.
And I get that it makes it hard because it's a lot easier to relate if you understand, but you're just not going to always get it. My experience is not going to be the same as someone else's experience. I don't always understand other trans people's experience. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, but that's just so many times, again, not just in this conversation, but in many other conversations, that's what the conservative Christian needs. They have to have that answer. They need to have that simplicity there. But I think that's a detriment to all of us.
It's like they need you to be broken so that they can fix you.
Oh.
Just saying. Because if there's a reason for all of this, then maybe they can fix it.
That's wild.
Regardless of the experience of trans individuals, if you're a person as a listener who wants to engage in this conversation in a helpful and constructive manner and learn something about the experiences of trans individuals, you're more than likely going to have to leave behind some preconceptions, because as a society, we have not done a very good job of understanding what's actually going on and bearing all of the truth and all of the beauty of trans individuals underneath all of this dirt.
Okay.
That came out of nowhere.
I think there's a conservative ghost in here.
That's what I was about to say. I was like, it's the ghost of a conservative.
A bunch of stuff just fell over here in the basement from a pile. It's a doom pile, so that makes sense. All right. Well, I think we're done here for today, Kris. Mm-hmm. You got a joke for us?
I do have a joke.
No.
Yeah. You ready for this?
You've got a joke?
I got a joke.
Is that the joke?
Wow, that's
oh, mean. As soon as I said it, I knew it was wrong.
All right, you ready?
Yes, I am. Buckled up, ready for it.
So, there is a trans guy and his wife.
Oh, this is a trans joke.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a good one though. It's not mine also, so I can't take credit for it, but I don't remember who the original person was.
Okay,
anyways,
sorry. Proceed.
So there's a trans guy and his wife, and they're at the hospital, and his wife just had a baby, and suddenly he disappears out of thin air, like as if it was a magic trick. And she goes, "No, what happened? Where did you go? Where are you?" And he answers, "I'm right here. You just can't see me any longer because now I'm transparent." They're a trans parent. They're a trans parent. I love that joke.
Oh my goodness. Oh, Conrad Vaughn ought to hear that.